the number of slums have definitely increased. Nobody really has quantified or understood how much the slums are contributing to the city. Getting TVs, getting sewing machines, getting washing machines for slum dwellers is not necessarily a bad thing because it improves their quality of life. Existence of slums are a result of the failure of the city and the state to provide amenities to those who need them. Depending on which organization's numbers you look at, which organization's statistics you look at, you'll have anywhere between 600 to 1200 slums in Bangalore. So there's a dispute about how many slums we have in the city in itself. The number of slums have definitely increased, irrespective of whose statistics you look at. Some slums, for example, have access to all the basic amenities, which is healthcare, education, water, sanitation, and housing rights, whereas a large majority of them do not have access to these services. Yes, definitely. Is that a result of a systematic approach by the state? Not necessarily. There have been sporadic instances of certain programs helping improve quality of life, but if you look at it in total, actually that's not necessarily true, because there are more slum dwellers than before, and the quality of life for many of them has actually reduced drastically. So the first category I would say is housing. Shelter is a huge challenge for slum dwellers in Bangalore. The second set of problems are essentially what I would categorize basic services, basically access to water, electricity, and sanitation and healthcare. So these four I would put together are a huge challenge. The third category of problems that I would put under are essentially the social security that we have in India at large, which is not restricted to slum dwellers, but in Bangalore, but across the country for the marginalized communities, is at this point very nascent. We need to do a lot to improve the social security for everybody. And the final problem that we will continue to face is for young kids, which is essentially malnutrition, which is a huge problem, along with education. A large majority of the women are in either the garment industry or work as maids, cooks, whereas there is also a large percentage of recent migrants working in the construction industry, whereas the men work as painters, largely with hands. Manual labor is the predominant occupation of choice. There are a very small percentage actually of occupation categories such as drivers of different forms, whether it's cabs, autos, tempos, but primarily it's manual labor that is the biggest employer when it comes to the slum. The idea is a remarkable idea, it's a wonderful idea. If it actually serves slum dwellers, that is wonderful. Whether it is in the form of notifying the slums, whether it is in the form of providing access to low cost loans to buy housing. There have been different examples, but that needs to be systematic. That needs to be a continued effort. It cannot be a stop start, we will do it for 1 year and then we do not do it for the next 10 years, right. So, it needs to be a continued effort to improve the quality of life. The reason some people make this argument is because everybody quantifies and understands how much money or resources are being spent on upliftment of slum dwellers' lives, right. Whereas nobody really has quantified or understood how much the slums are contributing to the city. That hasn't been understood well. The power distance between urban citizens like me and you and people living in the slums is very great. We have far greater access to our councillors, to our MLAs than the slum dwellers do. This is the time that they can actually use, this is the political leverage that they have to ensure that they are able to improve their own quality of life. And they do exercise it very well when it comes to these times. It would be great if more of our elected representatives actually went out and lived in the slums for more than a day, for a week maybe to understand what are the challenges that people face in the slums. Getting TVs, getting sewing machines, getting washing machines for slum dwellers is not necessarily a bad thing, because it improves their quality of life. And as long as we continue to exercise secret ballot, things will progress the way that they are. And as long as a city we fail to provide them the services that are part of their constitutional rights, then it continues to be the same.